Hello, I'm Giuliano Hazan, and I just made an egg pasta dough. If you haven't seen it, you can watch my previous video where I show you how to knead. Here, what I'm going to do is show you how to roll it out. Now, the dough has been resting at least 20 minutes, and we're going to unwrap it, but we're not going to panic because it feels like it's all wet. It's just because the moisture rises to the surface a little bit. So all we need to do is just knead it a little bit. And in kneading it, that moisture gets incorporated back into the dough. And also, now you'll see that the pasta is really nice and smooth. They say as smooth as a baby's bottom. So once it doesn't feel wet on the surface anymore, then we're going to cut it into smaller pieces. And I cut it into as many pieces as I used eggs to make the dough. And this was a 3-egg dough. So I'm going to cut it into 3, like this. I'm going to make sure that my pasta rollers are at their widest setting. I'm going to take one of my pieces and flatten it out with my hands. I can stretch it out a little bit like this. And then I'm going to put it through the rollers once, like this. You'll have to push a little bit hard the first time to get it through. And then I'm going to fold the dough in 3, like this. And then turn it so that the folds are perpendicular to the rollers. Put it through a second time. And then I'm going to fold it in half. Again, flatten it well, turn it so the fold is perpendicular to the rollers, and then put it through a 3rd time at that widest setting. And then I'm going to lay it out here on my cloth. Then I'm going to take the next piece. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flatten it out, stretch it out, put it through the widest setting of the rollers. First once. Okay, so now all 3 of our pieces have gone through at the widest setting of the rollers. And now I'm going to go down 1 notch and take the first piece and put it through. This time just once, like this, and put it back on our towel. And now I'm going to take the next piece and put it through just once. So you see, it's only at the widest setting that we put the dough through more than once. Afterwards, you only want to put it through once, because going through the rollers is a little bit of a traumatic experience for the pasta. So you don't want to do it more times than you need to. And now I'm going to put this down 1 more notch and repeat again, starting from the first piece. Now you see, it's important to put it down 1 notch at a time. You don't want to skip all the way to the thinnest notch just because it would be faster that way. The pasta is going to break. Now my mother always used to say that it would be like having somebody who's on top of a 6th-floor building jump out the window to go downstairs instead of taking the stairs 1 step at a time. This was a building without an elevator, of course. Hang the pasta on the back of your hand and make sure it hangs down vertically like this. And then turn the handle with your other hand. And when you see you're almost at the end, switch hands. And that way you can grab the pasta as it comes out of the rollers easily. We're down now to our next to last setting. Here we go. So we have put the pasta now through the next to last roller. Before I put it through the last roller, I'm going to cut each piece in half because otherwise they're going to be much, much too long. And you know what? You don't get extra points for incredibly long sheets of pasta. Okay, so on to our last setting. Take our pasta dough, let it hang vertically down, put it through the rollers. Try not to stop while it's going through the rollers because it could stick. And then take it out right away. Don't let it sit there all folded up because otherwise it will stick. So you see now we are down to the last setting. It's really nice and thin. Okay, so on to our last setting. Take our pasta dough, let it hang vertically down, put it through the rollers. Try not to stop while it's going through the rollers because it could stick. And then take it out right away. Don't let it sit there all folded up because otherwise it will stick. So you see now we are down to the last setting. It's really nice and thin. And then the pasta is going to need to dry a little bit before we can cut it. Because you see, if we cut it right away, it's too wet and it'll all stick together. So you want to let it dry until it gets to almost a leathery consistency. It's not so dry that it's brittle and it will break, but it's not so wet that it will stick together. Okay, here we are. We have finished. We want to make sure that the pasta is not overlapping anywhere because otherwise it would stick. Make sure it's flat. There we go. All on the cloth. And, you know, depending on how dry your house is, it'll probably dry for about, maybe 10 minutes or so. So we'll be back shortly.